Winnie, good morning.
Good morning.
I love it. So it is so good to have you on here. I'm saying to everybody, jump in here. Um, there we go. Co-host with the most, Drew Swirsky. Good morning, Drew.
Morning.
You ready to get started? Learn some tactics on this Tuesday?
I'm always ready.
I love it. I love it. Woo woo. So, Drew, meet my friend Winnie Rodgers. Drew is a former team lead, right? Great coach, great guy. Winnie is an old dear friend of mine. Well, longtime friend, not old, I guess. We're OGs.
We're
Um,
OGs. We're
Great
wise. We're wise,
instructor
Justin.
from, I don't know if y'all know this, but Charleston was a little surf town if
Yeah.
you knew the right people
A
back
sleepy
in the
little
day.
surfer stoner town back in the
Yep.
day.
And Winnie is a little is grew up in that Charleston, in a different time. I'm from a place that totally transformed, called Palm Bay, Florida. And if you look at like the appreciation, it is when the last recession, 23% appreciation every single year. Right now, same thing, incredibly fast, totally unrecognizable. I grew up in the woods of of abandoned Florida subdivisions. So, Winnie, thank you for joining us. Winnie is really fascinating because she's got. I highly encourage everyone, Julian, drop Winnie's socials to go check out her brand. She's going to share some stuff from her brand. It is so unique, so authentic. But what has always been fascinating is, you know, everyone that we bring on here. Winnie's got the steak to match the sizzle, you know, really great instructor, strong business, knows her numbers, understands this, and then has built, like, there's different levers that we can use. So there's only three ways to get business. What are they, Drew? Marketing,
You caught me
network,
off guard, man. I was writing down something to ask. So,
networking, prospecting, right? So today
yeah.
we're gonna be talking on that marketing side of how do you make people come to you? How do you engage with them? So Winnie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. So Winnie Rodgers in Charleston, South Carolina, like Justin said, and really, I've been in the digital marketing space for 20 years. And whenever I shifted over into real estate in 2018, I kind of fiddled with a few different marketing plans. I knew that that was going to be my voice. And one of the things that I really kind of focused on when I first got started was, oh, well, I want to feel like Charleston, right? Because I'm from here, I'm a native, I'm 11th generation. So I was like, well, I want to feel like Charleston. And what I found is that feeling like Charleston isn't actually who I am. Like I'm rock and roll. I'm a little bit more like I like cities and things like that. I definitely am still like pretty earthy, but a lot of people, when they think of Charleston, they think of beachy. I'm a woods girl. So I live on 14 acres of family land. So anyhow, so I kind of started to shift my brand over a little bit. And also, not sure if you can see, but I like tattoos. I like rock and roll. I like cocktails. I mean, and here's the thing is you can walk into my house. You guys haven't even seen my house for like 2 seconds, but you can probably tell a little bit of those things about me. So a few years ago, it was probably like 2021, I started to double down on my brand. And I just started, it was funny. I was talking to one of our friends, Mike French in Savannah, and I said, the weirder I am, the more money I make. And it isn't the weirder I am or the more money I make. It is the more authentically me, the more people just come to me and I don't have to go and grab them. And ultimately, that's what marketing is supposed to do. It's supposed to attract. It's supposed to be a somewhat passive thing that you do to attract. Now, obviously, you can make it more direct, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And then, yeah, I'll also share that I do consult branding with agents all across the country. And then I do teach and train nationally. I teach on recruiting, I teach on marketing, and I teach on systems. So in addition to being a creative, I'm a marketing person. I'm really a nerd. That's what I am. I'm a numbers person. I'm a spreadsheet person. So I'm going to kind of go over a little bit about um, how to like some of the elements of values-based branding and then how you can actually build this into a content marketing strategy. So I am going to share my screen, get this party started. All right, press all the buttons. All right, let's rock. So first, I just want to share with you like why branding is so important. The most important thing is that trust makes you seem reliable. You are dependable. That's one of the elements of branding. Whenever you show up the exact same way every single time, then your clients know who to expect. Have you ever seen some agents online or some people just in general where just their audio doesn't match their video? Right? Like you meet them in person, you're like, that is not at all what I expected. Well, I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm exactly what you would expect when you see my social media, when you see my flyers, when you meet me in person. I'm the same all around. What that does for me is it creates sustainability because I'm values based. So I don't have to kind of like fake it till I make it, which is a phrase that I don't like. I understand it, but I don't necessarily like it. I don't want to embody it. But also, one of the things about your branding is you don't have to be in your branding what your clients want. You just have to be consistent because you're bringing trust, you're building trust. That's one of the elements of trust. Trust is empathy, knowledge, dependability, and transparency. Those are the four elements of trust. So we
Can you
want to
repeat
make
those,
sure,
Winnie? That was
yeah,
great.
it's empathy. Do you care about me? Knowledge, do you know what the hell you're doing? Transparency, are you going to be forthcoming, forthright, honest with me? And then dependability, are you going to do what you said you were going to do? Those are the four elements of trust. So we really want to make sure that's why, and one of my pet peeves, I'm just going to say it, real estate agents and like a lot of just marketers in general are inconsistent. That is a downfall. You can't be using different colors, different fonts, different, like you can't have all boho one day and all super industrial and modern the next day. You just can't if you want to build trust. The other thing that your branding and marketing does is it's leverage, right? It creates or it tells the story when you're not there. And that helps to once again build your consistency. And then the voice element of branding, I think, is one of the most important parts because it brings in beyond just the aesthetic part of branding and marketing, your voice brings in that empathy, that emotional connection. It calls people in to your world. And once again, what you're saying, your voice doesn't have to be what your client's voice is. It has to be so authentically you that it empowers others to be so authentically themselves. That's one of the most powerful lessons in voice. And then, of course, design. Whenever you look at something, first of all, I want you guys to look at your brand and be like, oh, I love that. It feels so right, you know? And then on the other side, I want whenever your clients to look at it for them to be like, oh my gosh, that is so Justin. Like, that's what you want. Like, you literally can see I'm going to show you my brand in just a second and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I barely even know this girl, but that totally feels like Winnie, right? Like that's what you want. So whenever you're choosing your brand vibe, this is one of the things. There's just a few elements of it, right? We want to have a values driven brand. One of the things that we talk about or that some people do that I think is wrong is we're like, all right, what does the outside want me to be? No, no, no. Who am I inside my guts? Who am I inside my belly and my heart and my mind? Now let's project that out into the world. So we want to start from an inside out strategy versus an outside in strategy. Yes, Justin.
Well, so I think one of the things that maybe is being unsaid, and I love this, is we're living in like this new digital world. It's a hybrid world. And so I can't just like, it does matter how I show up. That's my handshake. That's my
Yeah.
business card.
Mm,
That's my, I wouldn't show up, not dressed to, right, in a t-shirt and flip-flops, to an appointment if that's not the way people dress in my community, right?
right, right.
But
In Florida, maybe. Right.
yeah, no, but I think that's important when you're talking about all of this. Like this is not like sometimes we think about marketing as like this extra add-on and everything you're talking about is
Yeah,
just like, oh no, the way the fonts, the dependability, like that is how
totally.
people are experiencing you. They're
It's your
experiencing
customer
more of that than they are
service.
of the physical you. I see. So it actually, it's
Yeah.
like, man, like they don't even know why they feel a little uncomfortable during the transaction or something. Well, because you're not communicating with them. They don't know why they don't
Mhm.
feel a little off because it's like, this feels weird and insincere. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it really is. It's almost like you're digitizing you, right? But here's the thing. Once again, I just don't want you to go from like outside in. Anytime the word should, I should do something comes into your head, I really want you to question that. I usually think that shoulds are an outside in pressure versus something that you're called to do, like deep in your guts, right? So like think about things that you would do if you got paid $0 for. That's like a calling, right? So that's how I want all of your brand to feel, is like you're drawn to it, you're magnetized to it. You don't even necessarily need to know why. So whenever I do, so I teach this as like a 4.5 hour class, or I teach this as a 4 week boot camp. So whenever we do that, we go deep into an immersive on building out your brand vibe. So it's your vibe, your roles, your values, your mission, your vision, your traits. And so these are actually your values. And then what we go to is we build out, what are your passions? What do you love to do? What do you feel called to do? What that when you do it, does time ceases to exist, which is one of my favorite questions in the world. I love it so much. And then what do you like? What are you aesthetically drawn to? What vacations are you drawn to? What type of home? Like, what are your kind of aesthetic, like your interior design choices? But what are some of those aesthetics? Like, I think a lot of people think that branding is just aesthetics. Nope. Like, that's just one element, right? So here's just an example of kind of what it can look like, right? Whenever you're building out your brand voice in general. So this is just kind of like a values section, right? Like these words, I'm sure for some of y'all feel right. So, if you want to just type in the chat box, like, what are a couple of the words in here that just like feel really right to you? Like, I love self discovery. So, I do meditation retreats, I do consciousness training or consciousness coaching. So, some of those types of things. And then when you're building out your brand, these are some of the elements of your content marketing strategy that we want to weave in throughout. If we weave in your values throughout, then it's sustainable and then it feels like you on that soul level, right? Does that make sense? Like when I say like on that soul level, if it doesn't, let's talk. So then what you do the exact same thing with like this, so kind of like a little memory jogger with your passions, your gifts, your strengths, and then you do the exact same thing with some of your aesthetics. So that's kind of how we build it out. And one of the things that's important to also note is that you kind of have to be vulnerable, but also use discernment to share some of these things in your digital format. For instance, I don't share that I love to cook because that's a me thing. I'm not good at taking photos about it. And I also know that like cooking is such like a safe, happy place for me. It feels very family. It just feels all gooey. And honestly, it's too gooey for me to show online. But I love rock and roll. And I go to concerts all the time and I show that online. So just know that you do have discernment to choose what you do show online. You can be authentic without showing everything, if that makes sense. Sorry, Justin, did you have something? I just like went on a tangent.
You answered it. I was just going to ask which
Oh,
ones resonate with you. Because
yeah,
I
yeah.
think for me, if I get one thing, if I get a picture of how, okay, I've got a picture of Winnie and I've got a framework, then I can usually model that, right? I need somebody who kind of
Mhm.
embodies it and kind of understand their thinking. And then that is very helpful. No, I love that.
Yeah. And whenever you're doing this type of work, now I've done this type of work with my consciousness coach for years and just continuing to develop this over and over again because we do change as humans and words matter. And the way that the word resilience might translate to you is different than the way resilience might translate to me. So I also invite you whenever you're doing this work of your values, your passions and your aesthetics is I invite you to do somatic work, which basically is just body work. So breathe into it, meditate into it, feel where you feel it in your body. Does it feel expansive? Does it feel contracting? Do you get goosebumps? And it doesn't, I just got goosebumps just saying that. So like that is your body, like in a gut calling way. That's why, and I know this might sound a little woo if you haven't kind of like heard of some of this somatic work, But that's where you can go from your actions and then your thoughts and then your body or your gut. That's how you know that it's a calling versus a should. So anyhow, and then once again, let's go back to brand voice for a second, because the authenticity part of this, like you can smell phony from across the room. Would you guys agree? Abso-freaking-lutely. So you want to make sure that first of all, you're authentic. The most important or the biggest reason for that is because it empowers your clients to also be authentic, right? And then your tone does matter. For instance, I cuss in my marketing. Now, some people might be like, Winnie, does that alienate people? Maybe like 0.0002% are going to feel alienated by me talking about tattoos, rock and roll, or saying shit every now and again. But ultimately, I'm being consistent. Even my clients that don't talk, even my clients that are far more traditional than me are like, that's so Winnie, and I'm trustworthy. That's the freaking point. It isn't that I'm like them. I'm not going to alienate them as long as I'm aligned with their values. My values are courage, energy, connection. Do they align with that? Most likely they do, right? So I'm not going to be alienating a ton of people. And then, of course, you do want to understand what your purpose is, aligned with your values, and of course, your business goals. But you start with who you are first, and then you go outside to your goals. And then, of course, you can make sure that your audience is getting the information that you need so that they can rely on you for some of that information. So I'm going to share with you a couple of branding kind of case studies so that you can see it. So this is my brand. You guys have met me for a little bit. It's kind of cheeky. It's kind of pinup. I say so, I say legit, I say shit, I say rad. A lot of my stuff has a little bit of like a vintage kind of rockabilly-ish kind of an undertone. Does this alienate people? No. Do some people not give a shit about this? Sure. Do some people love it? Most do. Most people love my little pinup girl. I think it's kind of cheesy, and I felt a little hammy when I first made it. People are obsessed with my pinup girl. I have it as a temporary tattoo because that shit is brilliant.
I have it on my water cooler, Winnie.
Thank you. Yay. But you
Hey,
can see
Winnie,
here,
I
like,
have a
I like
question.
cocktails, Yes.
I have a question. When did you just officially decide that you were going all in on you, right? And like a good buddy of mine who's I'm very close to said, let Drew be Drew, right? When did you
Mhm.
decide to let Winnie be Winnie?
It's so funny. So my first brand was more like beachy kind of theme, like still like modern, but beachy. And it was because I had somebody basically believe in me and tell me to lean into me. And I was like, first of all, I have a unique name. My name is Winnie. I have tattoos, I have red hair. Let me just tell you, women in Charleston don't usually, they have tattoos, but not red hair. I already stand out like a sore thumb in my own city. So it's like, why not lean into that, man? Like, I think I'm going to be 95 years old with red hair and glasses. Who knows what these tattoos are going to look like? But I want to stand out. You can't be one thing for everyone. But if I am consistently me, then I'm easier to find. I'm easier to attract. I'm more like a magnet. So that's a great question.
When you finally decided, how quick did the changes take place when you started to notice that?
It was right away. And at the very least, I felt like excited about it. And like even putting together my marketing and even presenting it to people, I felt more proud about it right away. So I would say right away. And then in terms of how it affected my business, I mean, pretty much right away, because like the energetic level, right? Where like we're all frequency, we're all energetic beings. So like my frequency just like upped. And whenever your frequency is at a higher level, you can like draw people into your world. So it was kind of crazy. And I've even gotten, people from my postcards that said, well, you didn't look like one of those stuffy realtors. Great. That's exactly what I'm going for. So this is just another case study of like what a really kind of like cohesive brand can look like, that it's so freaking consistent. This is a fake brand, but you can kind of already tell that this is like feminine, warm, luxurious. You know what I mean? So you can sense those things right out the gate. Now that's kind of building out like your values-based brand, your aesthetic, your voice, which does include, I want to say this again, does include your customer service. Like your customer service is part of your branding. Now, when we're talking about your actual like content marketing strategy. So whenever you're marketing, your job is to promote yourself, promote your brand, promote your clients, promote your business, right? And then it's to engage with other people to draw them in further. If you're only doing one and not the other, you're not doing it right. You have to do both, right? This is one of those places where 1 + 1 does not equal 2, 1 + 1 equals infinity. That's how, and that's synergy, right? So, and if you haven't read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I highly recommend that you read that book because it talks about the power of that. Now, when we're looking at content platforms, there's social, digital, and print. And I'm not going to go into these, but I am going to say social is trendy and quick. Digital is evergreen. You can repurpose it. And then print is more niche and targeted, right? So think about like social, for instance, LinkedIn is a really good strategy for perhaps creating relationships with corporations and being a relocation specialist, right? A magazine, for instance, is a really good strategy if, say, for instance, you specialize in equestrian properties or niche properties. Like that could be a good strategy for you. But what I want to make sure is that everybody here, because a lot of people only focus on social. I think that you're wrong. I think that everybody should focus on one digital platform first because it is a long form platform and it is an evergreen platform. It stays around forever, right? So think about YouTube. I've watched a YouTube video that's probably 10 years ago, about fixing my washing machine. It has legs forever. So I want you to focus on a digital platform. I'm a newsletter and a blog girl. This is because I was an English major, like that's what I like to do. And my newsletters have over 55% open rate for my agent referral newsletters and my client newsletters. So newsletters, if you guys have questions about that, I'm very passionate about, but just know that when you have that, then what you can do is you can repurpose it into these other formats. So that's kind of the main thing that I wanted to share with you about platforms. This is kind of what we deliver in the branding bootcamp and the branding series kind of towards the end is we have, what are your pillars? Your content marketing pillars are what you post about. Your platforms are where you post them, right? So your pillars, your first one might be real estate. Your second one might be your community. That's what mine are. And then you go into what's one that's related to your value system? What's one that's related to your passion, right? What's one that's related that, like, are you more funny or more inspirational? Things like that. And then I invite you guys to go in and create 3 topics. I'm going to show you what this looks like. So just so that you know, and then share like which platforms are you going to use. So just to go back to here, just so that you guys know, I do a blog, newsletter, and Instagram. That's what I do. And then I do some direct mail, but those are my primaries. You notice I don't do all this shit. I don't want to do all this shit. Like it doesn't resonate with me. And that's, once again, I want things to resonate with me, not because I should be on TikTok or whatever. I know I should do a YouTube. Like I know I should have a video channel. I'm adorable, but I don't want to, and it doesn't resonate with me. So I'm not gonna, right? Okay, so this is kind of what it looks like. And whenever we're building this out in your workshop, so this is the work, right? Like this is, if you have to do the work first, and then you can go from there. So this is an example of my content marketing pillars. You notice that now I'm using my colors, right? And I'm using my pinup girl because this is me, right? This is Charleston Gold. All right, so you can see 2 of my pillars, just like what I talked about, are Charleston and real estate, right? The real estate pillar is basically, I'm good at my job, right? Like, because honestly, sometimes I don't post about this as much as I should because I'm so focused on teaching. I love teaching. It is my passion. I'm not gonna never teach. It's just, that's what I do. So sometimes I have to force myself to remember, but that's why I have all this written down in a really cute spreadsheet, and it's great. And my social media team helps me remember to post certain things. So with real estate, that's making sure that people know that I'm a real estate agent, right? Like that's my job. But that is not the holistic element of me, right? Charleston. So I post about entrepreneurs. I always feature a local business owner every single month, right? And then I want to make sure that I'm also talking about uh, like the trainings whenever I'm teaching, because I want people to book me, right? That's one of my outside goals, right? I want people to book me in other cities. P.S. You can book me in other cities. I travel all the time. I'm going to be in North Carolina like 3 times next month or this month. Then let's go into the growth and the edge pillars though, because these are the ones that lighten me up. So I am big into consciousness coaching, metaphysical, yoga, like all that kind of stuff. Like I live by like this is the month of Beltane and May and fertility and things like that. So lots of my clients do not give a shit. I don't care. It's totally fine. But I know that what I'm doing by sharing these things in my content marketing strategy is I am expanding my audience to outside people, right? So I'm going to talk, about some of the books that I'm reading. I'm going to share new yoga studios that I might be going to. And whenever I travel to different cities, I almost always take a yoga class in another city, and I almost always go to a concert in another city. And Justin's shaking his head because he knows it, because he sees it, because he's been there, right? So like these are things that align with me and that I'm going to showcase to the world. Are they directly related to real estate or my business goals? No. Do they magnetize people into my little spider web and they're mine forever? Yes. And then, oh, by the way, I'm in real estate. Or, oh, by the way, I teach and train in other cities and consult, to people's branding, right? And then the same thing with the edginess. My clients would be so disappointed if I don't post when I go to my concerts. They literally are like, what's the next show you're going to go see? Like that, like they want that. They want to see it now. At the end of the day, a lot of what our clients want is they want to peek behind the curtain. They want to see, who we are in real life, who our value, like what value, what is important to us in our value system, right? So I share about, I love sunsets. All my clients know I love sunsets. I love a rooftop cocktail bar. That's one of my favorite things in the world. And everybody knows that. And so all of these, though, can overlap a little bit because they are aligned with who I am. So for instance, I can post top 5 cocktail bars in Charleston. My clients know that they can go to me to ask. Like my clients will be like, hey, Winnie, what's your, like, my girlfriend's coming to town. Where should I go for dinner on such and such a date? I'd be like, oh my gosh, you have to go to this new spot blank. Now, of course, that's because I live it. Like that's me. So yours might be, I don't have children. Yours might be like the best spots to take, to take kids water parks for the weekend. Rad. That's awesome. But that's why these are my pillars and you get to have your pillars, right? Cool. I think that's okay. So one of the things that I wanted to leave you guys with basically a goodie, a takeaway, a little freebie. So this is one of the things, like I said, my pet peeve with agents is that they are inconsistent. So my call to action for you guys is to use something like this, and I have a QR code for you to scan, and you can get a template version of this that you can input all of your info, and then never stray from this ever. You're never using a different font. You're never using even a different hex code, like those little numbers next to your colors. Like I will never use another hex code besides my own, right? So making sure that you are just so consistent that people would never not know who you are, what you bring to the table, and just that basically they could see your postcard across the room and they would be like, oh shit, that's Winnie's postcard. Like that's what we want to know. We want to be so consistent, just like if you saw MasterCard or you saw the Olympics logo, you saw Coca-Cola. Like that's what we want to be. But the only way to be that is to do the work right out the gate and build out your style guide. So if you want to scan this QR code, you can get access to that free template. And then also I do have a few other like goodies, discounts, offerings. You can learn more about my branding boot camp that's coming up here, which is the 4-week immersive boot camp. We do hot seat coaching and we do a lot of ChatGPT prompts in that too, which is badass. I love, that's kind of the next stage of like whenever you take these classes in person, that we build into how to systematize and how to automate some of these after you've done the work, the real work, the body work, and then go in and create those systems around that. So that's it for me. I would love to answer questions, do whatever.
I had one
I'm
big takeaway, Winnie, and then we'll just kick this off because I'm curious to hear questions, takeaways, and it is I have total control over my digital brand. And so if I can't so executing my digital brand consistently and excellently is the best proof of concept of look what I'm going to do with your house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think, you know what I mean? Like, and oftentimes it's an afterthought. Like, I don't even have, I'll be honest, I don't have a business card. I don't have one anywhere. I don't have a physical business card. I see the agents joining. I was like, maybe I should grab a couple business cards. I don't use them since COVID, but I'm like, it's such a
Right.
simple, like, oh yeah, these are simple like things I can do to reinforce some of this stuff.
Well, I think about, that, when we talk about what's it called, the seventh level open house, right? And how you need to door knock the neighborhood. And the reason is because not that you care if they go to the open house, and obviously they're not going to buy the house because they already live in the neighborhood, but they're seeing that you are a hustler, that you do what you say you're going to do, that you're showing up in a high level way. Like that's
Mhm.
the level of service that you're providing. And this is just another element of that. And there's some stat, so I don't know what the stat is, but it's something crazy where in terms of real estate, the most successful real estate teams do have a very consistent, concise, curated brand, and they do have collateral. That's why when we look at systems, tools, and people, one of the 5 tools that you need in order to be a successful real estate agent is collateral, which is your marketing. So it's just, you need a website and you need collateral, and you need a CRM, so it's one of the elements. And
I
it's,
love,
yeah.
I love it. Drew has been jotting down notes.
I'm first off, your energy is contagious. Thank you.
Thank you.
Definitely needed that this morning. Do you ever come up for air? Number one, because you were on a roll there. I love that. And second, if there was a brand new agent on the call that had never done any of their own branding, where would you tell them to start?
Okay, I love that. Okay, first of all, I'm I am called an enterator in human design, so I create my own energy when I'm doing things that bring me joy. So that's one of the reasons I am an energizer bunny rabbit. Um, and then I love to read books, so don't worry, I'm gonna after this like not talk to somebody for like 2 hours. So it's gonna be great. And then for a new agent coming in, really what I mean, I would take my boot camp because that's like the developing it right out the gate. But if you don't want to, then I would go into on my RIM real estate marketing Pinterest. I have saved boards, I have mood boards, and I have font boards. I would just go in there and basically create a mood board of your brand. So create the colors, right? Like kind of look at those fonts, like get this vibe, like feel the feeling first. And then I in the boot camp, I teach like color theory, but I would learn about color theory. I would choose like say 2 to 3 colors that super work together. Remember that white is always an option, no matter if it's part of your brand or not. And usually black is too, depending. And so just kind of do that. But then the split second you make the decision, stop and only do that. And if you want to do a rebrand one day, cool, cute, great, happy to help, but just stop at one point and just only use those fonts, those colors, those textures, that style, and just go for it. I would say it should take less than a week for you to be like, I'm done, and then go.
That I love that. I've got one. So this is exciting. We started talking about, well, who's got, before I go into this, because this is who's got a takeaway, who's got a question about anything Winnie talked about, want to go deeper on what values resonated with you, right? I think let's go back. All of this is like form follows function, right?
Mm-hmm.
All that sexy branding, and I think Winnie has like a very cool, exciting. It's totally unique. There's no one when you show up on my feed, it is unlike anyone else in the country. And like Winnie didn't talk about like here's how he workshop to have the most unique. No, it's values. It was I'm showing up as me, and then I'm excited about it, so I want to keep doing it because like it's joyful to be more of myself all the time, right? So
Yeah.
who's got a question before I jump into this question about AI? Any ahas, any takeaways? I see lots of lots of people peering.
What about like an action item too? I would love to hear like what's the first thing you're gonna do?
Scott Ford, what's your takeaway? Can you jump in here?
Winnie, this is like 500 level presentation. Drew knows that I'm on a big strategic communications bent on how you influence people before they even get to their decision process. And what I love about this is you're understanding and using colors, visuals. You understand how people take in visual information and how that causes them to react. And this is just, brilliant presentation
You.
of the entire spectrum of visual, narrative, verbal to influence how people that you
You.
don't even have a connection with, when they make a decision that they need a real estate professional, you're already hired.
We're
Thank
recording
you.
this, Winnie.
That's very kind. I'm like, oh my God, don't make me cry, Scott.
Uh,
So that's my takeaway.
Nagel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. That was excellent. I appreciate you sharing that. I'm glad I called on you. Matt Magel.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Thank you, Winnie, as well. I'll just say, like, my action item, I like you have a social media team. It helps me just kind of like stay consistent and hold me accountable to getting stuff up and so on. But the thing that I'm kind of wanting to get my little notebook and write out today that you've helped me with. And Jessica Swingle, if you're on here, don't get mad at me. I know you already told me to do this a half a dozen times, but it was Winnie that actually made me want to do it. So, but just like be a little bit more thoughtful about like the categories of content, right? Like you talked about kind of the seventh house of Venus being aligned with Jupiter and all that stuff being something that you like. I'm one of those Bible thumping Christians. I'm like, I don't know that, like, I want to kind of have a compartment that's really important to me, just like that is to you. And if I'm sure I'm going to attract people, and I'm sure I'm going to ostracize others, just given, their potential thoughts and biases around the content, but that's okay. Like, I like me, like you. So I think that just being a little more purposeful about writing down kind of some of those categories, and then having somewhat of a framework of like, okay, how often do I want to try and have content in these different categories, et cetera. So that was helpful. Thank you.
That's 100%. So if you guys clicked that QR code, then you will be part of my referral client, or I'm sorry, my referral partner newsletter. One of the things that I send out in my referral partner newsletter is a social media content strategy spreadsheet. And part of that is it gives you it gives you mine, and then a blank version of your pillars, your subtopics, and then also how often to post. So Matt, like that's something that might be helpful for your team because it holds me accountable. Like, hey, Winnie, you haven't posted what you're reading this month. What are you reading this month? Because that's one of my pillars, right? So just that might be helpful for you. So make sure that you guys sign up like using that QR code. And I know Julianne put it in the chat box as well, because that'll be some of the content that I'll provide because I'm a nerd.
Can I share an insight and aha I had just from watching this and I love Magel is a good friend of us, remember Gain, Kaza, like Winnie came in here and unapologetically talked about somatic theory and embodiment and doing the work and consciousness and meditation. No point there's any self-deprecation around that stuff. Like I used woo, but the rest of it was very much.
Yeah.
And I would just say, Matt, I love it. And I live in the Bible Belt. You are not a Bible thumping Christian. Own it. You are an embodiment of love, joy, right? Of like living a life that's attractive where I want that. Like, what's going on in you? Oh, hey, well, I've got this energy inside me, and it's because I'm tapped into an external source of something.
Yeah, it's your higher, it's a higher power. It's the same,
Yep, and just I think that's it of us just like authentically owning, because the people that are going to be like that don't like woo, they don't like, it has nothing to do with me. They still like Winnie. They're like, well, no, I like when Winnie does woo. I don't like when.
Yeah. I've had so many people that say, I love your branding. It's not me, but I love it. And I'm like, great. I don't want you to love it. It's freaking mine. Like, I don't want you to, and the good thing, for instance, I'm building out for some really important people in my world. It's my OP and his wife. They're building out a brand called Our Hallelujah Life. And like, that's what I'm building out for them. And I know them and because I know them on a soul level, I can then connect with them and help them build out their brand. And Latrice, so my marketing company does that. And then you can also use Canva templates to some of that for some of that. Just to answer your question. So Latrice asked, you know, some of the ways to basically do professional branding and graphics. That's part of what I do as like a fully customizable experience or kind of more semi-customizable marketing kits. But really, like, you got to do the work first and then bring that to the table.
Hey, Winnie,
Yes.
I noticed that you actually are moving people from one Instagram page to the next. Can you tell me the strategy around that?
Simply
Why
so
you
that
did
you
it?
see both.
Why two? I guess is my question.
So one of them is, well, most people are going to follow me. And then some people want to follow the brand. So that's it.
Okay, cool. Just wondering, right?
Yeah.
So Winnie, thanks for this talk. It's been great. I think all of us are we are trying to figure out what our brand is and roll forward with it. So I love the numerous pillars that you have, and that you're not afraid to let people into different aspects of your life, like what Matt talked about. You know, if you love Jesus, that's lean into that.
Yep.
We're in the best small town in a big city in Clifton, Virginia. So so that's a brand I'm leaning into.
Mm-hmm.
My question on your so thank you for that. My question on the fonts and the colors and all that. Did you reach out to? Are you just a student of fonts and colors, and you're just excellent at this, or is there somebody you went to say, okay, what's me? What should I do?
So for my real estate brand, which is that black and gold, that black is actually Charleston green. So I'm an 11th generation Charlestonian. So I used Charleston green. It's Haint blue and it's goldenrod gold. Those are Charleston colors because I am deeply me. My logo is a magnolia, Charleston, and it's also the Morris Island Lighthouse. So I leaned into the fact that like I'm a Charleston native for that. To answer your, and then completely different for my marketing company, I leaned into kind of like those sunset peachy colors simply because I'm drawn to them. To answer your question, so I teach about color theory, and it's because I went to school. I did study graphic design.
Yeah, okay.
So I have an understanding of color theory, and I think that's one of the things that I like about if you use Pinterest. If you go on to Pinterest and start typing in, say, blue color palette or ocean color palette or mountain color palette, whatever it is, then you can start to see how these colors can work with one another and can kind of contrast one another. I will say it's a lot of people try to like a lot of the palettes on Pinterest are like 6 colors. You do not need 6 colors. You need 4 colors max. Like that's just ridiculous. Like I don't even use some of my colors sometimes. It's just that you want to have them be contrasting enough. So black and white is the highest level contrasting colors in the spectrum. So you just want to make sure that they're contrasting enough to be able to see them. And you want to make sure that they're cool tones versus warm tones, saturated versus muted. So there is some color theory around it. But if you go on Pinterest, they usually have done some of that work for you. So I would just say like find one color that you're just like super drawn to, and then try to then go on a place like Google or Pinterest and just type in, evergreen color palette, like or like Kelly green color palette. And then you can start to see how some people have put it together. And what's going to happen is you're going to be drawn to the same graphic every time. You're going to keep scrolling and you're going to see that graphic again. You're going to be like, oh, I like that. You're going to skip and you're going to see it again. That's the one. That's the one from a gut standpoint that you're likely drawn to the most.
Yeah, and I think as I stand up my YouTube channel, I'm kind of doing some of this organically, but I guess I want to do it more intentionally, like you suggest. Yeah.
It's moving from E to P for sure, from entrepreneurial to purposeful. That intentionality is important.
Thank you.
It is 9:15. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, including Winnie. And thank you, Winnie. Do you have a couple minutes of overtime to talk about AI? Or do you need to go?
Oh yeah, I can talk about that. That's fascinating.
Okay. So, if you've got to go, thank you so much. Make sure you connect with Winnie. The recording's going to go out if you're on this call. But I wanted to talk to Winnie. We were having this conversation before we got started about AI and what AI can do, what AI can't do, right? And just for context, when we're thinking about AI, right? AI is just a limited language model. It's not like a galaxy brain, but it is really good at doing some formatting things, structural things. Like if you've got the right prompt engineering, it's excellent. And so much of what we were talking about is like these ahas were going off is like, oh my gosh, I can use AI. If I do all of the work that we talked about today,
Yeah, you got to front load it.
yeah, then I can really use AI to start engineering some of these things, or I could use AI for accountability or AI for a social media content calendar. Like, right, I
Yeah.
can use AI for some of those things. AI is not going to create my own values.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I do for my my clients as part of my packages, we build out, your branding strategy and your content marketing strategy, but then I build custom chatbots for them that are their brand and that are fed with their content marketing strategy.
I love it. What's
So
if
you can do that, and then and then there's other ways like with all of the updates with Canva to input. I definitely do recommend doing the Canva Pro because you can input your brand style guide and then you can use sheets to pump out a whole bunch of graphics.
are you leveraging, because you're not in that space, you're not in video, right? Would you be leveraging generative AI or Grok or Doll E to be creating content, to be using AI created content?
I personally won't because like what I like is photographs. What I know that usually brings people to me is photos of me or photos of my city. So I'm using that. Having said that, I do think that since my pinup girl is already a graphic, so to speak, that I have opportunity to create video around her.
Hmm,
Um, so like I already want her to, wink and things like that. I think that would be adorable. But so there's an opportunity for me to do that. I just haven't leaned into that. Really, that's a who, not how for me.
got it. And then just how does this brand show up in your business, Winnie? So let's just talk about this from a practical standpoint. You know what I mean? What does that look like? You're Winnie and Co now. Is it like, are you prospecting at all? Or is everything coming in kind of passively through attraction, referral? Like, walk me through a little bit about your business.
Yeah. So my business is about 70% sphere. And for my sphere, I do a happy hour on brand. I do a Halloween event on brand, and I do a yoga class every year on brand. Right. So those are how that shows up in a practical sense with my client base. So that's about 70% of my business. And also hopefully you guys can feel, and Scott, you said, like I have an infectious energy. People don't quit me, often. If they don't quit me, it's usually, or if they do quit me, it's usually because I'm like, you're you're creepy. I'm not going to invite you to things, but for the most part, like people stay in my world, and I have evangelicals for my business because of the way that I have built my brand and all that kind of stuff. Like I go to happy hours with my clients. We do Halloweeny stuff. We have this market called Feminist Magic Market. We have a rockabilly barbecue. Like I dress up in my little rockabilly get up, and I always have clients because all my clients are friends now. So that's like one part of my business. The other part is 30% of my business is agent to agent referrals, right? And so what my calling in life to do is to teach, and there's several topics I like to teach on, but I travel across the country, and I did go international in December. Woo woo. Anyhow, so I travel across the country and teach. I teach branding, I teach recruiting, I teach like systems. And so, but here's the thing is my branding shows up there too. You're going to see it the same way. I give out like my leave behind for agents is a temporary tattoo of my pinup girl. you know, so it's showcasing then too. I'm being consistent with them. Whenever I teach, I don't teach super formal. I teach and I might say shit, you know, and I might like, and I am informal and I will laugh at myself and be vulnerable because I am a courageous person. That is one of my value words. And being informal and silly and a little less than perfect is courageous. So I do think that I show up in that way with my referral partners too. And I mean, I do get a decent amount of referrals from just from showing up because clearly I'm knowledgeable, but also just like by being me. Like, do I get everybody's very super uppity, uptight clients? Probably not. That's okay. Probably better.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. This was fantastic. And then I do have, so we talked about brand. What's the biggest challenge you find in people doing the work? Because I love, like, even Dave was like, we're all trying to build a brand and fonts and it's like, and doing the work of, like, I'm like thinking, do I really do? And I've done the work. It's just sitting in notebooks. I have
Yeah.
I've got some really smart notebooks where I've done this
Uh-huh.
stuff, but like, what's the biggest challenge in kind of translating it from the page into life for people, you
Well,
think?
I feel like, well, that's why I created the branding series because it forces you to do it at that moment. So I think it's the accountability. I think that a lot of people think that it's not that important, but here's the thing is if it feels so aligned with you that like I look at my posts, I literally will look at my postcards and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I love this velvet touch." Because I use velvet touch postcards. Velvet, by the way, very rock and roll to me. So for me it just makes me happy. So the more just but somebody else is going to look at their postcard and be like, I don't give a shit. Well, then maybe you didn't do it right in the first place. Maybe it's not aligned well enough with you kind of in the first place. And I think the biggest problem is the accountability to sit down to do it. And because it's that like working on your business versus in your business kind
Mhm.
of a thing. It's, you know, and that a lot of people don't know how to pull it out of themselves. One of the things I didn't mention, but that's really important to mention, is that we are all very multidimensional, paradoxical human beings, and we have to narrow down what we're going to put on social media so that we can create that consistent and kind of curated messaging. But we're so many things, and that's why it is nice to have that accountability for somebody to be like, I get that you're so many things, but what I'm sensing from you is actually that family is the number one thing from you. And this was just a cool example. So I'll share is there was this one gal, I was doing this workshop and she was like, you know what, Winnie? She like raised her hand. She had an aha. She was like, I had family down as my pillar. But whenever I was thinking about how that shows up for me, I like to garden and feed my family with the food, with the fruits and the vegetables and the herbs from my garden. I like to host my family and gatherings, and I like for them to come to my home and to feel warm and welcome. I'm like, so is it family or is it that you like hospitality and hosting, but from a heart-centered place? So she changed her pillar from family to
Mhm.
that kind of hospitality or hosting, because she wants her friends to feel like family. She wants strangers to feel like family when they come into their home. It isn't her family that is the pillar, it's this hospitality. Anyhow, Scott.
No, I love that. Getting
Yeah.
specific because family is the most powerful concepts, right? You're at KW, right? It's God,
Mhm.
family, business. You're using some of the most powerful, they can be boiled down to one word,
Yeah,
but because they're boiled down to one word, God also could mean source.
there's like
It's
17
yeah, just so
subtopics.
family super powerful, but it also is so broad, it doesn't, it cannot be impactful.
Yeah.
The
And the more
same for
niche, just like, if you specialize in equestrian properties, like those niche things,
yeah.
you can really double down on.
Mm.
Scott, what's your question?
It wasn't a question, it's just an observation. You know, we talk about what are ahas, and I could go off on your use of the term curated and what that means, but I wanted to point out the evergreen because it's not just evergreen in content of photos of the city or whatnot. the consistency, it's evergreen and showing people what your values are and you're passionate about. That if they scroll through your feed or your website, they're seeing that even if it's 6 months ago, there's a consistency that comes through about
Yeah.
who you are as not only a real estate professional, but who you are as an individual. And that's a pretty powerful magnet for a lot of people.
Well,
Yeah. How you do
I,
anything is how you do everything, kind of a thing.
well, and the biggest takeaway I've gotten honestly from this, Winnie, is a reminder of a couple of things. You believe that you matter, that you're the way you show up matters, that you're important. And everyone else is as well, I think of that. But that
That's
the
a
best
good
way I
point.
can
That
show people they're
probably is
important is by living it
that is
myself.
probably why people don't allow themselves to do this work is actually, to answer your question from before, like you just gave me an aha that like that might be why some people don't do the work, that they don't think that their faith matters, or that would be such a drawing, like a connection
Everyone
or a
loves their
magnet.
kids. So like, when I'm gonna talk about my kid, everyone loves their
Yeah.
kid. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that is a really, having a belief that I matter. Because what I see from this is like something I relate to is the more space that I take up, the more I authentically am myself, the more weird I am, right? The more room it creates for everyone else to be themselves. Because if I'm out here on the edge, like most people are not going to be redheaded pinups and like right if who's former roller derby girls, like if I'm out here doing that,
Yeah.
like, and people are like, oh yeah, I love Winnie, she's professional, like,
Yeah.
then like you're, like finding out Scott, who's conventionally, right, like, oh, Scott's really into Star Trek or whatever, or like, oh, and
Antiques.
like you're like, oh yeah,
Right.
cool, yeah, I didn't know Scott loved barbecue and Star Trek, and oh my God, is he Yankees fan? Oh, girl, but like, now I think of Scott when the Yankees are on. I don't know if you're a Yankees fan, Scott. You're muted. But anyways, like, but when I find those things out, like I remember those people. We had a guy in our, uh, you know, Justin Ford came to speak to us, and I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee Volunteers. College football's big here. There's one Alabama fan in there. Was very proudly in Alabama. Not a popular choice, but like we talked about him like 8 times because he kept coming back to like using him as the butt of the joke. But it's like it's not bad to stand out.
Hey, I
No.
grew up in Pittsburgh, Justin, so my brand colors are black and gold.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I lived in Baltimore, so but I also I love watching Ravens Steelers games. They're some of my favorite.
Yeah. And there we go. So then we just found out, you know what I mean? And that there is a multitude inside of all of us. There is nothing stopping us from loving woo-woo embodiment and also loving the Ravens.
We are surrounded by inauthenticity every day, 24/7, 365. And people that come across as genuine in both their professional life service, but also the human component as a
Yeah,
real
that it's
estate
woven.
professional.
Right?
People want to put trust in a real estate professional, help them find their new home or sell their house to get on with the next phase of their life. And if we can demonstrate that, I think it puts us a leg up. It certainly cuts against the perception that the public has, that we have allowed, our profession has allowed the public to have about what real estate agents do or don't do.
Well, we're Bowman Keaty said, I love that. And Bowman Keaty said something really fantastic. If you read the National Association of Realtors, probably a good place to wrap up, Winnie. I'll let you have the last word. It says, underneath all is the land, right? And we've got, if we allow ourselves to do it, a fiduciary duty is the highest, is the highest calling. It's the highest duty recognized by the law. And we get to, consult on our clients ahead of ourselves. And when we just lean into that one simple thing, that's what I do. It's Dove, it's Schlitz beer. You just tell people how everyone makes beer, but oh yeah, did you know I have a fiduciary responsibility? Like I have to put your needs above my own. So and I take that very seriously. Like it can be a vocation. Not just, yeah, I love that
Or a
stuff.
calling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I would say I've built a whole network nationally off of nothing of just trying to be a good friend to people. And it is amazing that that is like, you want to know, you meet CEOs and the speaker on stage and they're like, just treat people like they're all in a genuine way, like they are your friend. And
Well, and that might not be other people's gift, right? Like
true.
connection is one of your gifts. That's one of my value words too. It's why we're friends, you know? And like
Yeah.
honoring where your gifts or your weaknesses are, because some people just don't feel called in that interpersonal way.
If you don't have charm superpowers, like then yeah, this might not work effectively for you. It's gonna not be a fun time
Yeah.
talking to them. You might not enjoy what
Yeah.
happened. Like now I've got to talk to 200 people at an event. Yeah.
Yeah.
Winnie,
Well, thank
thank
you
you.
so much for this. I appreciate you. Yeah, reach
Feedback
out
was
to me if you guys
amazing.
have any, yeah, questions, concerns, all that kind of stuff.